Kirby and the Forgotten Land definitely ended in a very interesting way. In the last video, we covered all the information about the ending and explained exactly all the details and how everything actually panned out with the story mode. But today, we're taking it even further and talking about the post-game, as technically that's canon, and something else that might be canon for the first time ever in this game is the Coliseum actually being the arena. And I'll talk about why that could be canon and all the information all put together for the end of the game. And if you haven't seen my last video talking about the actual ending, if you haven't seen my last video explaining the normal ending for the story mode, here's a card right above that you can click on, and I will briefly sum it up real quick before we start the vid. Before we get started, I want to thank you guys so much, because you guys have been so engaged in Kirby content. It's been so much fun to make. You guys have been leaving so many comments, so many likes, and so many subscriptions in the last couple of weeks. I cannot thank you guys enough. And of course, there is a lot more to come, so make sure you leave a like if you haven't yet, and subscribe to stay up to date on all things Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and turn on notifications so you can be notified exactly when I post. Thank you guys so much, and let's jump on to the video. So for a quick summary of the ending, Kirby finally made his way to the very end of the Forgotten Land, reaching Lab Discovera, the lab that was able to capture the alien specimen known as Fecto-Elfilis. It then separated into two, leaving Elfilin to fly away, but Forgo needed his second part in order to be whole again. With a whole bunch of crazy things and different transformations, it's finally able to get Elfilin one more time and become whole and fight Kirby at the top of Lab Discovera. After a long battle and eventually running it over with a semi, Kirby was able to completely defeat Fecto-Elfilis. Well, that's what he thought. After the credits roll, we get a scene of Leon sitting in a bubble, almost like he's asleep, in that same lab, and the lab looks like it's in a hazardous state. Kirby and Elfilin make their way back to Waddle Dee Village and finds Clawline, and she senses that Leon is somewhere in trouble within the Star Dimensional Rift, and Kirby goes to investigate until he's sucked into the whole thing. Kirby and Elfilin then find themselves in the Isolated Isles, which is Forgo Dreams. Forgo Dreams is an area corrupted all from the memories and dreams of Forgo itself, and these are all the memories from the past locations on the Forgotten Land. So looking at our collection of minifigures, we know that after the fight with Kirby, IDF-86's body was destroyed, but their powerful mind survived. They fled to the Isolated Isles of their own dreams and brought Leongar with them. To prepare for their new vessel, they cast out Leongar's soul, shattering and scattering it throughout the realm of Forgo Dreams. So, Leon's soul has been shattered throughout all these various past locations within the dreams of Forgo, and Kirby's job is to hurry up and collect them in order to save Leon from being taken over before it's too late. At the same time, Forgo's mind is so powerful, he was able to build up an army of illusory beasts and Kirby's past foes as the Beast Gang, but now in phantom versions, which are just kind of dreams and memories of the original cold, lifeless husk with its only intentions on killing Kirby. Kirby is then finally able to find his way back to Lab Discovera, but this time in the creepy dreams and memories from Forgo.
And here we are.
Kirby and Elfilin then make it to Leon and give him the rest of the pieces of his soul in order to revive him. And he's back to normal and even dances with the duo, happy to be back alive and saved by Kirby. Unfortunately, with him being back alive, it still means it's another host for Forgo to take over, as his mind is still alive and able to completely consume and possess the beast, and fuses himself with him to create Forgo Leon. For the most part, this fight starts off as pretty much the same way you fought him the first time, and this is another just hatched attempt at Forgo trying to take over and trying to kill Kirby with something similar that he's already done. But he realizes very quickly that this isn't going to be enough and that he has to step it up a bit. He then decides to autopilot and turn Leon into one of his illusory beasts, so that way Leon is fighting on his own, giving Forgo time to fight for himself. With Leon being self-controlled as an illusory beast, this gives Forgo the ability to fight separate from his host, so that way he can do a 2v1 against Kirby, keeping him on his toes, fighting them separate. Kirby was then forced to tackle both of them, dodging tons of attacks and finally making his way to the end and defeating them both. Kirby is then able to launch Leon out of the control of Forgo, revealing Forgo himself, and he charges up for a massive attack and transformation until he turns into Soul Forgo. And right before the battle begins, something odd happens. A butterfly flies in through the crack of the room and slowly flies towards Forgo, until eventually it lands on its nose. Yes, the Monarch Warrior returns, Fluttering Dream Eater Morpho Knight. The butterfly came in and pretty much evaporated Forgo and used his soul essence in order to power the powerful knight once again. Now I know a lot of you might be very confused, especially if you didn't play Kirby Star Allies, and the fact that this is kind of more part of the actual story itself this time around really might confuse those that didn't go all the way to the end with the extra game modes in Kirby Star Allies. So, allow me to explain real quick. Throughout Kirby's history, we've always seen these orange butterflies fly around Kirby and his friends right before destruction reigned, and they would always disappear and go away after that, and we'd never seen anything from them again. That was until we finally seen one appear in the main story, kind of, in Kirby Star Allies. Galactic Warrior, known as Galactic Knight, dropped in to fight Kirby and his friends until eventually being confronted with one of these butterflies. The butterfly landed on his lance, eventually completely evaporating him of his power and transforming himself into what we know as Morpho Knight. If you paid attention to the opening of Kirby and the Forgotten Land, you would see one of these butterflies actually flying towards and getting sucked into that dimensional rift where Kirby and all of his friends go, so that is why he's in this world in the first place. We know these butterflies cast judgment, so I guess we can look at them as like the time variance authority like they were from Loki, where if you break any type of rules in the timeline or any type of, thing that's not supposed to happen within the natural flow of time, these guys will come in and completely wipe you from existence. I would guess that's their main goal, but of course, we are going to have a whole video dedicated to Morpho Knight, so make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you're ready for that. But before we continue to the second half of this story, if you guys haven't picked up your copy of Kirby and the Forgotten Land or pre-ordered Nintendo Switch Sports, which is coming out at the end of this month, make sure you pick them up with my special links down below through Best Buy. It helps to support me a lot, and you guys get your game that way, of course. Thank you so much, guys, for supporting, and let's get back onto the story. Kirby then proceeds to have an intense battle against Morpho Knight, and Morpho Knight uses his giant blades, fire attacks, and teleportation to try his best to defeat Kirby, but once again, I still ask the question, why do they fight Kirby if their only job was to stop the menaces from destroying the timeline? That's once again a question for later, and I can't really down on all that now, but one thing that is noticed is that the essence of Forgo is still within Morpho Knight itself, as lots of its powers do call out a phantom version of Forgo to follow and chase after Kirby. But something interesting happens at the end of the battle, which makes me actually question something in the past as well. When Kirby defeats Morpho Knight, you see him slowly float up into the sky until he eventually evaporates, and at the last second, you can see a glimpse of what looks to be the soul of Forgo escape up through the ceiling. It tells me that perhaps Galactic Knight is still alive somewhere, whether he's in a soul form or his regular form, I don't know. This one's kind of hard to tell considering the fact that technically Forgo was in his soul form, and when Galactic Knight was taken, he was in his regular form. So once again, that's going to take a whole video to cover that one. But anyways, the duo save the day, and they walk up to Leon and find out that he's not awaking, until Clawline and the rest of the Beast Pack come in with some leftover pieces of Leon's soul that they were able to find, and they were all able to revive him with those pieces. And of course, Kirby, Elflin, and even Clawline help to save the day this time around, and everyone is back to normal, including the Beast Pack. And then everybody is friends, and everything can be normal and go back to normal, right? Well, no, there's still something missing. Of course, the soul of Forgo escaping from Morpho Knight, and technically this is still canon. The Arena and Kirby games have never been canon, but this one might be a little bit different. When we look at the figurines for commentator Waddle Dee, it says the Coliseum is always ready for battles with brutal beasts, but with no one prepared when a mysterious vortex opened up inside the arena, commentator Waddle Dee was so scared that he almost shut everything down, but his curiosity won in the end. What wild battles await within? It's tournament time. So it seems like this Coliseum actually might, for the first time ever, be canon. Now, the arena has never been canon because it's always added some extra stories throughout the actual game. You know, some side stories that were never really part of the game or some type of extra modes. But even the Forgotten Isles was part of the main game for Kirby. It was actually one of the first ever post games for Kirby instead of an additional mode with an additional character, like with Meta Knight or King Dedede. And with this said, it seems like some type of dimensional rift opened up above the Coliseum, bringing Kirby through to all these weird distortions of past battles, but at the very end awaited something very interesting. interesting for Kirby. We see Kirby and Elfland drop in with their own cutscene dedicated to this final boss, which once again kind of just screams that this is actually canon. See a white figure drop from the sky and open up its wings to reveal Chaos Elphalus, the new version of Elphalus. You might wonder, how is Elphalus able to retain its body without Elfland by its side? Well, once again, that's what the figurine data does for us. It gives us new information. It states a unique convergence of elements from native beast souls to ethereal butterflies gave a stubborn soul one last chance at revenge. This new creation, driven by pure chaos, was defeated by the bright light of Kirby's hope. So thanks to the butterfly's power and also the power of all the beasts that it's consumed, and even probably part of Leon's soul, it was able to have enough power to generate its body by itself without even needing Elfland, which is very interesting. This also goes to show just how powerful that ethereal butterfly really is, and able to give him all this power to reform his whole body without even having his second half of him. But Elphalus is granted one more opportunity to take over and defeat Kirby once and for all. With Elphalus having brand new powers thanks to the butterfly, and even unique ones such as giving himself a spirit form, swinging giant spears across the landscape, Elphalus is a threat to be reckoned with. Eventually Kirby's able to knock him down again, but this time instead of ripping Elfland from him, Kirby decides to finish this once and for all, and actually rips his soul from him. Kirby is kind of dark. But doing this, Kirby knew that he would have to fight his soul as well, because the soul is the most powerful part of the being. Consuming the body and combining all of its elements into one, Kirby is left to fight the Chaos Elphalus soul. This soul form is a combination of everything that Elphalus has experienced while in the Forgotten Lands and all the different past experiences that he has had, and you can actually hear them come out and screech out from him at the last second. Just take a listen, it's very eerie.
And here we are.
Yes, very creepy, right? I mean, I seriously, no joke, get chills and goosebumps every time I hear that part. It is very chilling for a Kirby game. And you can hear lots of different aspects of this world, even the little Wonderia theme park soundtrack. It's just, it's so eerie. After a while, the soul trying to kill Kirby, it eventually ignites into a flame and tries to run over Kirby itself. And it is a very powerful being. In fact, it reminds me a lot of Draucia's soul from Kirby's Canvas Curse. So maybe it's just that all souls of these evil beings fight very similar, because there's also some very similar attacks that it does, especially one where it bounces back and forth throughout the background, eventually landing on the stage, which Draucia's soul did the exact same thing. Eventually, even Kirby's able to defeat a villain's soul because, goodness gracious, he's so powerful, but you can see the rest of the Beast Pack actually kind of squirm out and the souls of the beast kind of slither back and forth right as the thing is about to explode, which is very gross. And finally, the last piece of soul remained, and it willingly found itself towards Elfland, finally giving up and coming to become whole with Elfland this time, instead of Elfland being forced to combine whole with Elphalus. At last, the two became one, according to the description of his figurines. Elfland and Elphalus finally becoming one soul. The skies in the Forgotten Land finally clear up, and all source of evil is finally gone forever. Man, what an absolute crazy story this time around. It even combines elements of the post-game and the arena side mode to join into some absolute amazing story and give us a lot of lore to add to the Kirby universe. Of course, there's still so many questions left on the table, like where did Elphalus come from, and like who is he, what is his main goal, and why did he decide to attack the Forgotten Land? What happened to the people of this world, and where is this world even at? So many questions, so many things to talk about, even extra stories like where the heck is Morpho Knight and what's dealing with him and what's up with these butterflies. There's so much information to go over. Is Galactonite still alive? There's a lot to uncover here. So if you guys want to make sure that you're up to date on all this information and even more theories coming in the near future, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to stay up to date on all things Kirby and the Forgotten Land and all things Nintendo in general. And like always, I'll see you all on the next one. See ya, guys.